Peyton Manning. His team will get the ball. Archie and Olivia looking on from their suite. And here was the end of the anthem just a couple of minutes ago. The two of them on the respective sidelines, a little nod to each other. And now it's time for football.
Not exactly like two heavyweights in the middle of the ring, huh? Just kind of, I got you, bro.
Devin Moore to run the kickback. Lawrence Tynes to put it in the air, and away we go from Indianapolis. Moore from the goal line out to the 20-yard line, and as you know, as the ball comes loose, but after the pop was made by Jarris Wilkerson, here's the Indy offense.
Peyton Manning, University of Tennessee.
Joseph Adai, Louisiana State.
Reggie Wayne, the U. Pierre Garçon, Mountain U.
Austin Collie, Brigham Young.
Dallas Clark, University of Iowa.
Charlie Johnson, Oklahoma State.
Jamie Richard, Buffalo. Jeff Saturday, North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Mike Pollock, Arizona State. Ryan Deem, Northern Illinois.
That offensive line's had a lot of injuries. They were banged up in preseason and didn't protect Manning very well last week. They'll go right to the air, and this is Garçon making the catch and picking up 12 yards, so they start with an immediate first down. And of course the Colts, as you know, for years under Manning running the no huddle. The no huddle can mean they'll either snap the ball within 5 seconds or sometimes just let the play clock run all the way out, but they want to keep the Giants from making defensive substitutions. Peyton, who has started every game. This is his first game as a rookie in '98. Throws again, and this time on another slant, they pick up another first down to Reggie Wayne. So he goes to Garçon on the right, he goes to Wayne on the left, and just like that, a pair of first downs.
Well, if you ever watch the Colts, you know this play. Here we go. It's the one in the Super Bowl that ended up getting intercepted. Reggie Wayne with a little more high-speed version of it, and we're getting a little more high-speed version of this no huddle too. They're going to try and wear the Giants out.
From the 44-yard line. Now to the ground, here is the dive. And the one thing, Chris, that Indianapolis is looking for still is that running game. Last week, of course, they were behind the entire game. Adai carried 10 times for 44 yards, but it's hit and miss with their running game.
Yeah, and if you want to slow down a good pass rush, which certainly the Giants have, the best way to do that is to run the football. They only got 10 tries, but they did average 4.5 yards per carry, so they would take that here tonight.
You can see last year last in the league in rushing yards per game, but they did get to the Super Bowl. 2nd and 9. Manning will swing it out. Adai makes the catch, and then Adai is able to stay in bounds. Jonathan Goff shoving them out just shy of the first down. The Giants defense.
Elias Kiwanuka, Boston College.
Justin Tuck, Notre Dame.
Barry Cofield, Northwestern.
OCU Manura, University of Troy.
Michael Bowley, Southern Miss.
Corey Webster, LSU.
Deion Grant, Tennessee.
Antrell Roll, the U.
Kenneth Phillips, the U.
Aaron Ross, the University of Texas.
Terrell Thomas, USC.
Nickel and dime package. The Giants like to line 3 ends up front. Meanwhile, out of the eye right now, you've got Eric Foster, the fullback, the lineman, and he's going to lead the way for Adai, and Adai cuts inside of Foster's block, and that's Indianapolis's 3rd consecutive first down.
And as always, Jeff Saturday coming off the knee injury, the center right in the middle of your screen. You know who the center is. I don't have to circle him. He's going to just pull down the line and just manages to push his man Chris Canty right past the ball there. And boy, I tell you, they are rapid fire pace. If you've seen the Colts, they usually are not quite this quick with this no huddle.
At the 45 against a pretty conventional 4-3 look by the Giants. And with the play clock all the way down to 2, they stay on the ground. This is Adai for a gain of 2. The Giants with a new defensive coordinator, Perry Fewell, who was the defensive coordinator at Buffalo last year, and then in midseason when Dick Duron got fired, Fewell became the interim coach. The team did okay. He was interviewed for the head coaching job the day after the season and fired that day. So he got an interview, the whole staff got fired, and then Tom Coughlin made the call and he said, come to New York with me. 4 receivers, they go 3 by 1 in this set on 2nd down and 8. And Manning's pass is caught by Wayne. to the outside. He knew exactly where to throw it. I mean, it's quintessential Manning knowing exactly where Deion Grant, the safety, was on the coverage, and Wayne looked to the outside, and it's a 13-yard gain.
Now you called it exactly right. Anytime they get Reggie Wayne matched up on a safety, and so far in this game, Deion Grant has had the assignment of the inside guy. For the most part, it's been Dallas Clark in there. That's going to be a tough matchup too, but they feel like they can win that one.
8th play, they've gone 50 yards on this drive. Keep it on the ground with a dive, and a dive for a gain of 9 before the safety, Kenny Phillips, coming back from that injury last year that cost them 14 of the 16 games, makes the stop. And the Colts again as fast as they can get up to the line to keep the Giants from substituting.
Boy, the Brody Eldridge, the rookie tight end, made a huge block on that one.
Give it to a die again. He swings to the outside, puts his head down, and with that second effort probably picks up the first down, and they'll spot the ball just inside the 20. The Giants, as every Giant fan knows through the years, even in their Super Bowl season of '07, very tough for them to stop the opposition in the red zone. Coughlin, since he's been the coach, they are worst in the league compositely since '04 in stopping the opponent from getting touchdowns in the red zone. And this time they give the ball off to Donald Brown, who was their #1 draft choice last year and didn't have a single carry last week. He comes in to spell a die, and he rips off a first down.
This is just a fake play here. They're going to pull the guard off to the left, and it makes it look like they're going to trap the other way. That time you saw the guard, Mike Pollock, pull, and it's just a sucker play. They ran to where he pulled. Everybody went and chased the guard, and there was nobody left at home.
First and goal, 11th play of the opening drive of the game, and the first flag of the game. Ryan Dean, the right tackle, moving.
Ball start, number 71 offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Bill Levy, tonight's ref, so states. First and goal.
Well, and the other thing that does is it allows the Giants defense to substitute. Anytime you're playing the Colts, one of the really tough parts on those defensive linemen is they can't get a break. So that time they had Chris Canty come in and Cofield go out. At least they got a fresh body out there.
4 wide here. And only Manning in the backfield. First and goal from the 14-yard line. Over the middle, juggled, caught, and this is Austin Collie, and he'll take the ball to the 7-yard line. It will be second down and goal for the Colts.
Austin Collie coming off a huge game a week ago, picking up right where he left off. They love him inside, just working one-on-one, and so far the Giants are trying to cover these Colts receivers in single matchups on the outside, and so Peyton said, I'll take all of it you give me.
Colts have had the ball for the first 6.5 minutes of the game. The running back is Donald Brown. They give it to Brown, and Brown goes to the end zone. Touchdown Colts. That was Brody Eldridge, and Chris singled him out before, the rookie out of Oklahoma who throws the key block.
One of the problems with bringing safeties inside is they have to play the run. So now Peyton says, okay, you want to play Deion Grant inside? No problem at all. We'll just get a guard up there on him, and we'll walk in for the touchdown. Big block in there by Jamie Richard, but that's pretty easy. You want those safeties in there to help you cover, but then all of a sudden they line up in 2 tight ends and you're dead.
Richard and Eldridge working in tandem and taking out a couple of Giants as Vinatieri boots it through. Perfect opening drive for the Colts. Eli coming on the field next. 7-0 Indy. Retractable roof here, and it is open. Temperature was about 80 degrees an hour ago. Fairly warm. Darius Leonard will run the kickback if he so elects, and he chooses to down it in the end zone. And so the Giants will take over at the 20 with the Colts on top, 7-0. Giants' first offensive play comes with 8:16 left, and they'll start with an end around, and they'll give the ball to Mario Manningham, and what a shot he takes from Antoine Bethea, who comes up and rips him. And they might be minus Bob Sanders, but that's a pretty good Sanders imitation.
Boy, I tell you, Bethea came all the way across the field here to lay the wood on this one. He sees this reverse coming, and this message was, you think we're soft here in Indianapolis? Take that. That was a Bob Sanders kind of hit on that one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Sanders had bicep surgery. They keep him on the active roster, but he'll be gone for a while, and there's nothing happening through the middle as the ball is carried by Ahmad Bradshaw, who's now the starter with Brandon Jacobs backing him up, and Fili Moala makes the tackle. There's Eli. Despite the Giants 8-8 last year, after they were 5-0 at one point, he had a great season. It was mainly about the defense. Those great ends, Mathis and Freeney, factors on almost every play. Here they come again. Manning gets hit as he throws, and that pass is incomplete. And I guess that Indianapolis defense took everything to heart, and they come out looking like it.
Goodness gracious, Robert Mathis exploded off the ball into the line of scrimmage out here. Just ripped right around Kareem McKenzie. He had no chance. It's unbelievable. Two defensive ends, both of whom run about a 4.5 40. That's what wideouts used to run in the day.
Now here's Matt Dodge, and he's their 7th-round draft choice, taking over for Jeff Fiegels, and he had a terrible game last week against Carolina. This is a line drive kick, fielded at the 38-yard line and brought back to the 48 by Gerard Powers. So a low line drive kick and sets him up in midfield. 42 yards, 10-yard return. From the 48-yard line, first down. Joseph Adai, the running back. And Adai will take the ball for a gain of 1. Let's go back to the Colts touchdown, Chris.
Well, the Colts were out in 2 tight ends, and the Giants got stuck with 6 defensive backs on the field, 1 linebacker, and 3 pass rushing ends. And Peyton said, thank you very much. I'm just going to hand the ball off, and you have no chance. That's the problem. The matchup issues are what you face when you're playing against the Colts. And Peyton Manning's essentially the offensive coordinator out there. He can pick and choose.
Colts had a 12-play drive, and the Giants then went 3 and out. Play action. Manning slides to his left as he does so brilliantly, and then of all people, Wayne drops a perfect pass. Stop the presses. 3rd and 9.
Well, for Reggie Wayne, this one might have gone the distance here. He makes a great move at the top of this route, facing this 2-man coverage, which is probably the toughest coverage there is, but he got inside the safety, and if he hangs on to it, he had some space there. But Peyton Manning did a great job on that one, just sort of eluding that pass rush. And he's not a very fast guy, but as some of the Giants were telling us, it's like he has eyes in the back of his head. He can just feel what's coming at him.
3rd and 9. Giants showing blitz. They come and then they get back, and the pass is incomplete. Thrown into a lot of traffic and broken up by Matthias Kiwanuka. So a 3 and out for the Colts.
Matthias Kiwanuka coming off the edge. Rosie Umanura there is going to get some pressure around Charlie Johnson, and one of the things that Charlie Johnson's trying to deal with an injured foot, and so they're going to try and help all they can with him. But that was a good series defensively for the Giants on that one. They needed to get off the field.
Pat McAfee comes off a good rookie year, 2nd-year punter, and that is fair caught at the 14-yard line with a flag. Darius Renaud picked up from Minnesota recently, and the hold here is against Indianapolis. And explaining the options to Tom Coughlin, Bill Levy will tell us.
Holding, number 48 of the kicking team. 10-yard penalty, replay 4th down.
Justin Snow, the center, is the one that's going to be called for the hold. You can find him. He's the one with the ball in his hand. There it is. Grabbed inside the shoulder pads there. Really not a huge foul. They should be able to kick it back in the same basic kind of position, but the Giants, they certainly didn't need that penalty to go the other way and give the Colts another shot around midfield.
And McAfee this time sends it to about the same spot, 12-yard line, and then Ramon gets bottled up. So winds up, it's just about the same spot as before the penalty. Among other things, Eli's been indestructible, 89 straight starts. Third most, of course, Brett Favre on top of that list with that otherworldly 287 counting today. And second, of course, would be Peyton with 194 every start since he was a rookie back in '98. So now the Giants. Fans for either team could hold that one up. 15-yard line. And they give the ball to Bradshaw. He picks up 8. Let's take a look at the starters here.
Eli Manning, Ole Miss.
Ahmad Bradshaw, Marshall.
Madison Hedgecock, North Carolina.
Steve Smith, Southern Cal.
Mario Manningham, Warren G. Hardy.
Travis Beckham, Wisconsin.
Dave Deal, University of Chief Illinois.
Rich Soybert, Western Illinois. Sean O'Hara, Rutgers University.
Chris Snee, Boston College.
William McKenzie, Penn State.
And Beckham starting in place of the injured Kevin Boss, hurt last week, but hopes to be back next week. And now Manning on second and short, going deep for Smith, and the coverage is perfect. Antoine Bethea with the coverage, and let's take a look at that Colts D.
Robert Mathis, Eastside, McNair High School.
Daniel Muir, Kent State.
Phoebe Moala, Southern Cal.
Dwight Freeney, Syracuse.
Philip Wheeler, Georgia Tech.
Gary Brackett, the Auburn.
Kelvin Hayden, Illinois.
Antoine Bethea, DeReal A.U. DeMecca, Howard University.
Melvin Bullock, Naaman Forest High School.
Gerard Powers, Auburn.
I told you Session was out, and Connor, the rookie from Clemson, 53, gets the start. It's third down and 2. Eli out of the shotgun, and that's broken up by Hayden. So after a nice gain on first down by Bradshaw, the Giants can't exploit that, and it's another 3 and out.
Boy, Kelvin Hayden coming off his best cover game maybe of his career, checking out the receiver there and makes a great play. That's pretty unusual for them to be in single man coverage on the outside when you've got a guy like Nix who can take you deep over the top. To have the kind of courage to hang in there and knock that one down, pretty impressive.
Effective corner blitz that time by Powers. And now Dodge's kick, and this is a good one, to the 23. This is Powers, and Powers slips, falls. And they'll spot the ball at the 34-yard line with 4:49 left in the opening quarter. 7-0 Indianapolis. Giant defense on the field. Last year, what happened? 26.7 points a game, third worst in the NFL. Giants giving up the most since '67. 40 points in 5 games. That hadn't been done in the league since '99. And so what happens? That normally means your defensive coordinator is gone, and there went Bill Sheridan. And Tom Coughlin, who had Steve Spagnuolo as his defensive coordinator before Steve got this head job in St. Louis, brings in Perry Fuel, who had coached for Tom in Jacksonville in the late '90s. Donald Brown is the ball carrier, and Brown is taken down near the line of scrimmage by Michael Boley.
You know, it's so interesting watching what the Giants are doing out there for me, because the Colts are coming out in this 2 tight end run set, and the Giants don't care. They're sitting back there with 6 defensive backs and only 1 linebacker in the game, saying bring it. And basically Perry Fuel was telling us, hey, as long as they're running the football and Payton's not throwing it, I feel like I'm winning.
Gets slung down at the 41-yard line. Terrell Thomas. Peyton Manning wearing that sleeve on his left arm. He played with a pinched nerve in his neck last year, and then he had a procedure done during the offseason. So as a precautionary measure, he wears that sleeve on the non-throwing arm.
And he got hit a ton last week against the Houston Texans. They got to him about 10, 12 times, and this is a guy that was only sacked 10 times all of last season.
And as you can see, they got to him 15 times. They hit him and knocked him down more than half of those times last week. So that offensive line had to button it up, and they certainly did on that first drive tonight, 3rd and 4. And they give him time here as he steps up, and the pass incomplete. Good coverage by Grant on Clark. Crowd wants a flag, won't get one. 4th down.
That's the matchup, the new safety, Deion Grant, and he's been doing a nice job on Dallas Clark on the outside. Peyton knew right exactly where he wanted to go, but Grant had that one completely blanketed that time. Beautifully done. I tell you, if they can get one guy to take away Dallas Clark, they're going to be way ahead of the game tonight.
Crowd saw the replay, still wanted the flag. Still don't get him.
Didn't deserve it.
No, right. Here's McAfee's punt. Giants are going to let it go, and it takes a good Giants backward skip, and the Colts down the ball at the 29-yard line. That's only a 30-yard boot.
Well, there's Steve Smith, who has really put on a show as far as his route running is concerned. He's just one of those guys that gets it. He understands the game down the field. He has all these little tricks that he uses, little out nut cup. This is the one I like here, is a go route. He's not the fastest guy, but watch him get on the good side of the defender there. He's going to put his body between the ball and the defender, and even though he may not be able to outrun everybody, he understands the concepts. Over 100 catches a season ago, broke the team record by something like 25 passes. Great year last year.
107 total. Now Brandon Jacobs gets the ball, and what the Giants have done this year is it used to be Jacobs starting, and then it was Bradshaw coming in, and then a couple of years ago they had Derek Ward. They had Earth, Wind, and Fire. Ward gone last year, and now what you have is Bradshaw as the starter, and here he comes back into the game here, and Jacobs backs him up.
I was really surprised on that last drive. They hit him with a run on the first down for 8 yards and go pass. The vulnerability of this Colts defense is running the football right at them, and they kind of let him off the hook last time.
Double tight end set with Boss out. The other tight end is Bear Pasco. It's activated this week, and on 2nd and 7, that pass is caught out in the flat, and that is Travis Beckham. And Beckham is met by 5 Colts, including, well, Dwight Freeney that time put the pressure on the quarterback, and then 5 Colts are there to make the tackle.
Yeah, Freeney's first spin move of the night here working against Deal. And one of the problems these linemen have is on that spin move is they're so used to playing when they get their hands engaged on that defensive end, they can maintain contact, but that spin move, they lose contact, and it kind of freaks them out a little bit. They don't know what to do next.
Third down and 6. And the Giants will spread it out, going 4 wide. And over the middle, that pass is incomplete, and Hayden is there, and this time he's going to get flagged for it. Hakeem Nicks, he of the 3 touchdown receptions against Carolina last week, and with a balky ankle, with the coverage too tight.
Pass interference, number 26 defense. First down, not a foul.
Too tight and illegal. Hayden.
Well, it was great coverage by Hayden. The problem is his back arm, you'll see him out here, his back arm is going to wrap around Nicks, and he's going to get a little twist. So when that arm gets hooked around and they see the shoulders of the receiver turn, they're going to make that call. That arm on the back arm was what tipped off the officials there.
Took over 13 minutes for the Giants to get their first down of the night. And Eli buying time, and he'll run that ball right into the New York bench. Chased out by Daniel Muir, the tackle.
You know, the Giants are giving the Colts a few different looks here as well. They're coming out, and they've got a tight end and Brandon Jacobs in the backfield, and you're thinking, okay, they're going to play some power football. And then they go double wing with those 2 guys. So essentially empty in the backfield, no threat of the run, and they're just going to try and throw it. So there's some gamesmanship going on here. Everybody in the building thought the Giants were just going to line up and play power football, and they've hit them with a few changeups. Now an extra offensive lineman in the game, Adam Coates.
61. So Kevin Gilbride calling the plays, and the play he calls right here is a Jacobs run. over left tackle, and that should be enough for a first down. Tackled by Powers.
Over here, you've got Adam Coates, the extra guy. Right there's the new tight end, Bear Pasco, and they're just going to run it right at them. Nice open field tackle on the outside, though, by the corner. Steve Smith got a little better block. That one had a chance.
Final minute of the quarter. Jacobs to the 42. A little attrition with Jacobs, who was such a dominant force a couple of years ago, but he plays so hard, he hits so hard, and he gets hit so hard. Next thing you know, you got to wind up on the operating table.
Hey, 6'4". Try and get your pads down low enough to not get hit in the thigh pad and the knee. And he had knee surgery in the offseason. That's the thing he's always going to have to battle, is he can never get down as low as the guys trying to tackle him.
Through one quarter of play, it's Indianapolis 7, the New York Giants nothing. NBC Sunday Night Football continues after these messages. Mama Manning finished texting, and we're ready for the second quarter in Indianapolis. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Sunday Night Football. The Colts took the opening kickoff and went down the field 80 yards in 6.5 minutes. And now we've settled down at that point. From that point on, and it's second down and 10. The Giants have the ball at the 43-yard line of the Colts, and Bradshaw is back in the game, and he'll take the ball to the 40-yard line. Chris, we were talking about Eli and Peyton, and we talked to Eli last night. You're more like your mother or your father? He said Mom.
No question about that one. Plus, he loved telling the story of how Mom came to his defense in a Little League baseball game where she came out and the coach wanted to chew out Eli, and Mama Manning put the car in reverse and went back and had a little conversation with that coach. Said it wasn't like her very much, but it was sure enjoyable to watch.
A little bit of the blind side. But that's what mothers are for.
Absolutely.
3rd and 7. And Eli escapes. Looked to pack it in and then throws it away. Running to the sideline. He had nobody there. And Dwight Freeney is there to make sure that there was no Giant completion.
How do you stop this guy? Dwight Freeney this time is going to line up just the inside here and make this move. And this is like the Super Bowl escape. Somehow or another, Eli gets out of that one and is happy just to throw it away. I tell you, all these guys on the Colts defense can run. They're going to have to start blocking Dwight Freeney here. It's going to be a long night for Eli and Mama and Papa Manning, too.
And Dodge coming off a day to forget last week, but kicking much better tonight. And in this particular case, the ball gets down at the 1-yard line by D.J. Johnson. So they were ready to run him out of Dodge last week, no pun intended. And tonight, he looks like a guy that they drafted to replace Fiegels.
Yeah, they were hoping. They said he has all kinds of talent. There's Johnson making a great play. Now, if he falls into the end zone, he's got a problem. Smart enough to dunk it back out. It's sort of like a basketball play. If your foot touches the line when you have the ball, then you're out of bounds. And if you can keep from doing that, then Dodge is happy, isn't he? That's a look of relief right there. He was one more shank away from being on the streets.
Colts pinned. They spot the ball at the 2-yard line. Adai is the back. And here's Joseph. And he'll give them plenty of breathing space as he takes the ball out to the 10-yard line. Kenny Phillips, the safety, comes up to make the tackle after a gain of 9.
Even down on the goal line, the Giants are staying in that 3 defensive end look. So Peyton Manning showing a lot of patience. I'm not sure that he would have played this game. Here he has all the emotion and playing his brother and all that. And Kenny Phillips is shaken up on the play.
Well, that's the last thing they want to see because he is so valuable to that defense. I don't have to tell you if you're a Giant fan. So Phillips assisted off. Second down and 2 now. And the Colts give the ball to Adai, and Adai really pounded Phillips on that last play. Michael Boley makes the tackle here. Phillips had microfracture knee surgery last year, and here was a guy whacking him.
Well, and one of the problems because of that surgery, they really were trying to protect Phillips during the course of the preseason. So he probably only played 15 snaps in a couple of games, and he hasn't had much contact and probably hasn't had a whole lot of experience tackling since that surgery.
Michael Johnson comes in that spot. Keep it on the ground with a dive, third straight run. One of the reasons the Giants, of course, had to go out and pick up guys like Deion Grant and Antrell Roll was the fact they didn't know about Phillips, and they didn't know, as Tom Coughlin was saying to us last night, you know, we had to go do that as insurance. Now, he looked great last week, but there he is on the sideline right now.
Yeah, and it fouls up their game plan a little bit because he was such a big part of it. He has great coverage ability, and they could bring him down and cover a tight end or cover one of the wideouts. And now I'm not so sure with Michael Johnson they're going to feel that same way.
2nd and 3. Manning will throw, and that's going to be caught on the outside. And that's Clark, who had 11 catches last week in Houston. The great tight end. Dallas Clark, of course, a tight end who is a pass-catching tight end. He's been doing it for years. I mean, they've had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and others here, but it's Dwight Clark year after year after year who is really Manning's insurance policy. Dwight Clark, well, Dallas, either Clark. Dallas Clark. 1st and 10, the ball at the 24. And a die again. And a die with a big run. So no running game for the Colts last week, but a very good one tonight. They've already fed him the ball, and that's a 12-yard gain, 10 times 46 yards.
And here's what happens when you end up with a defensive back out here. They simply run the football and let a big tight end, Dallas Clark, go down the field and block. Umanura tried to jump inside, and that's what created the lane to the outside.
4 minutes into the quarter. 66 rushing yards tonight. The Colts who started this drive at the 2. They give it to Brown this time, and Brown's able to escape and then turns a loss into a gain because Matthias Kiwanuka had him wrapped up for a 3-yard loss. But Brown is able to get by him and take the ball out for a gain of about 4.
And Matthias Kiwanuka is essentially going to step inside and use his quickness to get back to the outside, coming in right there. But you heard Peyton yelling just before that there's 34, there's 34, basically saying they still have a safety and not a linebacker in the game, so I'm going to keep running it.
2nd and 5, and again they'll feed the back. This time it's Brown who scored the game's only touchdown on the game's first drive. Antrell Roll makes the tackle, and the Colts have moved from the 2-yard line to midfield.
Well, one thing you still have to do, though, is you've got to take care of these big guys inside, and Jeff Saturday and Jamie Richard that time got that part of the job done. But now they're starting to get offensive linemen down on those safeties, and it's effective.
Play fake. Manning going deep, and it's Clark making the catch, running away from Ross. Touchdown. That drive was surgical. Run, 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 play fake, get Clark loose, 98 yards, and up by 2 touchdowns.
Well, and plus now your safeties are starting to play the run. The safety completely abandoned his role here on this one and is going to shoot his way up. Michael Johnson, we just talked about it. Kenny Phillips out of the game. Michael Johnson gets caught up in something underneath. And Aaron Ross was expecting help and didn't get it.
Vinatieri for the point after. 8 plays, 98 yards, 6 runs, 2 passes. 14-0 Colts. The brothers Manning. 1976, Peyton was born. 81 for Eli. Both went to the same school in New Orleans. And then, of course, Peyton to Tennessee. Eli to Mississippi, where Dad played. each with their own Super Bowl MVP trophy and ring. The Bros meeting for the second time. They met at Giants Stadium on Sunday Night Football back in 06, a game won by the Colts. Here's the kickoff now. It bounces at the 2, and it's going to go out of bounds. No, it just does sneak into the end zone by a couple of inches, and that will cost the Giants 20 yards of field position.
Well, go back to the touchdown. We'll try and figure it out. Michael Johnson is going to step up here on this play action. Maybe he just thought it was a run, got fooled, and just really left his cover guy on a complete island there. I think that was Aaron Ross going down the field, but that's unfair. He's expecting help over the top, and the injury to Kenny Phillips meant he didn't get it.
Not like Peyton noticed that, huh?
Yeah.
From the 20. Play fake to Jacobs, and that buys a lot of time, and then going deep and looking for Smith. Can he corral it? And he is able to not get it, and then it's picked off as Gerard Powers winds up with a football and then runs it back to midfield, and a flag goes down all over the place. A bunch of flags after the tackle is made on the Colts sideline. Great interception. Deep pass by Manning, who had time. Smith looked like he was about ready to come down with it. Levy and the crew go over the flags.
After the runner was out of bounds, personal foul number 27 of the passing team. 15-yard penalty, first down.
That's Brandon Jacobs, costing him 15 more. Back to the intercepts.
They really had Steve Smith bracketed on this one. No reason to throw this football. I think what the Giants are doing, they're anticipating Antoine Bethea coming down and playing the run. They were in the I formation with the fullback, with the Brandon Jacobs back there. They very much look like a run set, which typically means Bethea comes down to play that run. They thought it was going to be there, but Eli really should have figured that one out. At the snap of the ball, Bethea did not move. There really was nowhere to go with the ball.
For a fleeting second, and if Coughlin's going to probably throw a flag here because of the contact by Smith. They'll move the ball all the way back, and Tom noticed that, or the staff certainly upstairs did, and he'll want that reviewed, not because of the interception, but because of the spot.
Challenging that the runner was not touched and was able to advance. We'll review the play.
Right, he should win this challenge. We'll find out when we come back. Tom Coughlin should win this. The key on this play is, when does Powers have possession? Because he's clearly contacted by Smith. Smith can't hold on to the ball. Two other Colts are there. Powers is the beneficiary, and Powers has to have possession. It's clear that Smith is the guy who makes the contact to send the defensive back to the turf, but the key is that he has possession of it, which he appears to have right there, even though the ball's moving around. Here comes the call.
After reviewing the play, the intercepting player was contacted by a New York Giant player at the 23-yard line. With the clock operator put 9:26 on the game clock, we will enforce the 15-yard penalty for the late hit out of bounds. It'll be Indianapolis ball, 1st and 10. New York Giants will not be charged with timeout.
So that at least saves the Giants a lot of yardage, but Jacobs costs them the 15 nonetheless. And with a 14-point lead, the Colt offense is coming back onto the field.
And for Eli Manning, he just needs to read it out. They were trying to show that they can throw the football, I guess, out here, but they really have not challenged this Indianapolis Colts defense. They've been about 50-50 so far run pass, but it has been the running game that's been more effective. And they're kind of letting them off the hook. Maybe it's the big lead, the 14-point lead already. They're trying to take some shots to get back in it, but that's not really how you beat the Colts.
That challenge was worth 33 yards as it moves him back to the 38-yard line. Kenny Phillips comes back into the game. They'll start on the ground again with Brown to the 41-yard line, and we go to Andrea
Well, Al, they evaluated Kenny Phillips for a head injury. They gave him the standard concussion tests, made him walk heel to toe, obviously kept him out of that previous series, but felt that he was good enough to go back in despite the questionable designation, and he is back out there.
Well, he's back in, but Justin Tuck right now needs some attention. So the great Giants defensive lineman is down on one knee. All right, so Tuck goes to the Giants sideline. Kiwanuka moves over to his side. Umanura comes in at the other end, and it's 2nd down and 7 now from the 41-yard line. Joseph Adai. 1st down into Giants territory to the 43-yard line.
Well, you're going to see it all night as long as you get Deion Grant right there. There's only 1 linebacker, 4 defensive linemen in the game. The Giants knew coming in with this strategy that they were going to employ. They were going to have to be able to stop the run with just 6 guys down there. And so far, Peyton Manning has been really patient in taking advantage of it.
And that Colt running game, 99 yards already halfway through the 2nd quarter. Not even. And now they're over the century mark. You know, coming into the game, so much of the story about, as Tuck comes back in, that Indianapolis offensive line. Could they protect Manning? Could they create holes for the running game? And the defensive line. And so far, they get A+ on both levels.
Yeah, and Bill Polian, of course, after the Super Bowl, was quoted as saying that he sort of blamed the offensive line for losing that game. And he has since apologized to all those offensive linemen, but he did make some major changes up front.
2nd and 4. Adai running with abandon and looking like that 1st-round draft choice out of LSU from 2006. And that's a gain of 12 as Coughlin looks on with that perplexed look.
Yeah, they're just getting cutoffs on the backside here. Chris Canty is going to get cut off by Charlie Johnson, and that's going to allow the cutback to come over. This is an offensive line that really is getting a pretty soft look in there because of the way that the Giants are playing, and they're not changing.
Donald Brown, the runner. They call his number the #1 draft choice out of Connecticut last year, and he moves the pile, keeps the legs churning. Gain of 5. Harry Fuel trying to figure out a way to stop this Indy machine.
Yeah, well, he put his linebackers back in the game on that one. Jonathan Goff came back in. I think Perry Fuel had seen enough of this sort of walk and bleed the clock right down the field kind of offense.
2nd and 4 at the 19-yard line.
Now all 3 linebackers in. Now watch him pass.
Well, keep it on the ground. Brown, as long as that ground game is working. Brown a little short of moving the chains. 3rd and 1.
Well, if you can't stop it with this look, they got everybody up here right now. I mean, you can't have any more defenders up, and they still did okay running the football. Ryan Dean with a good push off the side, and when you talk to some of these Colts guys, they feel like that the one guy who never gets a credit around here that he deserves is the right tackle, number 71, Ryan Dean.
21 runs for the Colts, tying the most in any first half since Peyton took over in '98. And here's your new record, but it's not a thing of beauty because Brown gets taken down by Barry Cofield behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they're starting to get the big guys back in there now, and that time it worked. Barry Cofield just blew right through Jeff Saturday, who tried to cut him off on that play right here. Finally get some of the defensive tackles in the game, some of the defensive ends and defensive backs out of the game, and it finally worked.
Giants will limit them to a field goal attempt. Adam Vinatieri, a 38-yard field goal for the longtime ex-New England Patriot. And still whacking him through at the age of 37. 5 minutes remaining in the opening half. It's been all Colts. They lead 17-0. If this were boxing, tail of the tape might look like that. Peyton with that one head-to-head win and a big leg up on the one right here tonight. 17-0. The Colts have outgained the Giants 233-26.
Most of that on the ground, and maybe they missed our promos about this being the Manning Bowl. Maybe we should have done our promos with Joseph Adai and Donald Brown. It has been the run, run, run show so far.
Indianapolis 122 yards on the ground. Vinatieri's kickoff deep into the end zone.
Well, it doesn't take long to figure out that these two guys are brothers when you watch them warm up. A lot of similarities in that delivery right there. Haven't had a chance to show you as many passes during the game, so we'll show you warming them up a little bit. This has been for Archie Manning. That's his guys, man, and they put on a great camp, trained a lot of young quarterbacks around the country, and people flock to it.
From the 20, here's Bradshaw. And Bradshaw bounces off a would-be tackler and turns it into a 4-yard gain after the 24-yard line.
Well, it's only taken 25 minutes, but the Giants are finally doing what I thought they would be doing from the start here. They put in the extra offensive lineman, Adam Coates, go a little power football, but you know, when you're playing Indianapolis and you're down 17, it gets tough to be patient at this point.
Tom Coughlin now 7th year with the Giants, and Jim Caldwell, who took over when Tony Dungy retired 2 years ago, in his 2nd year with the Colts on 2nd down and 6. And Bradshaw again will set up the 3rd down and 3.
You know, that's 3 yards, and if you're doing it at the beginning of the game, you can at least say we're getting some hits on a guy like Robert Mathis and slowing him down. Right over here, here's your speed pass rusher. Just 2 guys go knock him around a little bit. That'll slow him down.
Under 4 to play in the half. The Giants need something before halftime. They didn't play a very good first half last week. Trail played a great second half. But they dug a big hole tonight, 3rd and 2. And that play clock down to 1. And Eli tries to call a timeout. Did he get it? No.
Offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Well, the Colts were in a blitz look. Ramon Humbar was up there right at the line of scrimmage, and I think Eli realized he couldn't get it protected, thought he could get it checked, and thought he could get a timeout, and got neither. Now he's back in a situation where you got to face Freeney and Mathis in 3rd and long. That was a big penalty.
The Spinners. 3rd and 7. Only a 3-man rush. And Eli is able to convert just barely. Steve Smith cutting across the middle, making the catch, and Dawson with the tackle. So they move the sticks with under 3 minutes to play. 1st down.
Well, this is the kind of route running I'm talking about with Steve Smith. Watch him go up, make a tight turn, knew right where the 1st down marker was. One of the leading 3rd down receivers in all of football a season ago, and Eli never looked anywhere else. He has one guy he truly trusts in that situation, and it's Steve Smith.
Led the league in 3rd down grabs last year, makes a big one here. He had 38 last season. And cutting it back is Bradshaw, and he runs into his own man Smith, dislodges his helmet, gets tackled by Hayden and Bethea. 1st down.
Yeah, and that time they go to add the extra offensive lineman in, and then Bradshaw starts cutting that thing back against the grain. When you're playing against this Colts speed defense, you've got to use that cutback. Those guys flow so fast to the football. If you allow them to just turn it into a track meet, you'll never catch up with them.
Can they get a play off before the 2-minute warning? They can. There comes Mathis. He gets the pass away. It's caught by Bear Pasco, and at the 1:54 mark, we have come to the 2-minute warning in Indianapolis, with the Colts dominating the first half, 17-0. 2nd down and 3. Giants have all of their timeouts left. And they give it to Bradshaw, and he gets bottled up short of the first down into Colts territory. Line of scrimmage 48. It'll be 3rd down and 1.
But there's plenty of time here. You don't have to go crazy. All 3 timeouts remaining. Just work it. If you want to run the football, run the football.
And Eli's going to lose the ball. It's the old sack fumble. And Levy will see who came up with it. That's Robert Mathis who comes in. And at least the Giants are able to retain possession. Even though for the moment Eric Foster comes up and says, hey, we've got it.
Robert Mathis was just gone by the time Kareem McKenzie got out of his stance.
And now the other official comes in and rules the ball to be recovered by Indianapolis.
Indianapolis player recovered the fumble.
All right, originally you saw Levy wind the clock, which is an indication that the offense recovered the ball. And then the signal is made after he winds the clock that the ball was recovered by Indianapolis. So Foster does come out of it, and on a delayed call. And of course, the Giants will take a very close look at this to see if they can win a challenge. But how in the world do you see who really recovered the ball? Of course, they can't challenge it anyway, but upstairs they will take a look at it. The replay booth is going to take, and that's what Tom is saying. Why don't they stop it and take a look at this thing? I can't stop it, but they can.
And Eli was wanting the tuck rule. He was saying, I think my arm was coming forward.
And maybe they will stop it from upstairs. Last 2 minutes of either half, no challenges. It has to come from upstairs.
The clock's going to remain at 1:07.
All right, that was all about the clock. Levy had wound the clock before the change of possession had been designated. And Jim Caldwell wanted to make sure they get the appropriate time back on the clock. From the 45 now. Brown. Pickup of 2 to the 43-yard line. Under a minute to go, and the Colts trying to pad their advantage here, have all of their timeouts. And over the middle, and that is caught, and Wayne is able to escape and picks up a first down. Tuck goes downfield to make the tackle, and the Colts will spend their first timeout. Take a look at the play again with Manning, with Eli, that is.
Let's see if there was any tuck to this one or not. Is his arm going to be coming forward, and is that what causes the ball to come out? You know, he does pump it once, but then he reloads it. It only counts if it's going forward. See, now he gathers the ball again. That's a good no call by the official. That was definitely a fumble.
First and 10 at the 34-yard line, and Manning throws. And reaching back to make a nice grab is Clark, but a flag is down on the play. Flag at the 23-yard line, which is about 10 yards downfield. And obviously against the Giants.
Holding. Number 21 defense. Penalty is declined. Second down.
It's amazing when you can't even hold Dallas Clark and cover him. Kenny Phillips is one of the great athletes in the game, and he's going to take a shot here at covering a tight end. And I don't know if you can really call him a tight end, but as Dallas Clark gave him that little push off, Kenny Phillips gave him a little hold in return, and that was the matchup that they really thought was going to give them a chance to win the game.
Not to take a timeout.
So Indianapolis, after originally calling the timeout, they have the option after the penalty call to not take the timeout. And obviously that's the choice they've just made. And instead of an automatic first down, at this point, why not make it 2nd down and 1 instead of 1st and 5. They'll take the extra yardage is what this amounts to.
Absolutely. Work that field goal if you ever needed it.
Right. The down and distance is next to irrelevant with 2 timeouts. And at this point in the half, and the pass is incomplete. Justin Tuck that time came in and was able to get Manning to the turf. 3rd and 1. The Giant victory right now, limiting them to a field goal attempt with a half a minute to go. Ball at the 25-yard line. And that'll convert it. And Ross will run Collie out of bounds, so they don't even have to use a timeout. Pick up a few yards, specifically 9 on that play, and make it a 1st down.
The Colts are using a new snap count. Watch Jamie Richard over here, the guard. He's looking at Peyton. When he kicks his leg, he's going to reach over and touch Jeff Saturday. That allows Jeff Saturday to keep his eyes down the field because he's the one making the calls as to what the defense is doing. Jeff Saturday will keep his head up. Jamie Richard will look between his legs. He played center all preseason when Saturday was recovering from the knee operation. Kick him, touch him, there we go.
And that's caught off the back shoulder by Adai, and that's going to make it a 1st down and goal at the 4-yard line. And Manning takes a timeout here, so it's a 1st and goal.
So many times the best option when you get a blitz, they're going to bring a blitz right in here. You get a blitz, forget trying to block him, let's just get him out. So then you get Joseph Adai out, and there's nobody really there to cover him. Michael Boley kind of took a shot at it. But this is surgical, Al. This has been quite some show here by the reigning MVP, Peyton Manning.
There's Clyde Christensen, the new offensive coordinator. Tom Moore is now in an emeritus role. Moore gave Clyde his headset and a carton of Marlboros, and he said, take over.
For Clyde Christensen, he was telling us the other day, he's like, you know those little text things where you type in the first couple of letters and it sends out a long message? I can't get the first syllable out, and Peyton's going back in the huddle going, I got it, leave me alone. Says, I don't know whether to finish the play call or not.
1st and goal, the ball is at the 3. Little fade to the corner of the end zone, and Webster is covering Garcon. That ate up only 3 seconds. 2nd and goal.
Well, for Corey Webster, he's out there and he's all alone, and he knows he's all alone, but it's a nice play. It was kind of interesting that time. Peyton Manning snapped the ball without saying a word. There was not a hut or a go or anything. And maybe that's what he's determined is the best way to attack that bump and run. If they don't hear the snap count, maybe it gives Pierre Garcon a little jump.
Second and goal. Manning's going to roll left, caught. Collie, touchdown. Eight plays after the turnover. 45 yards in less than a minute.
Well, it's a great play by a veteran that time in Reggie Wayne. He understands how to pick without making contact and getting the penalty called against him. It is nice to have veteran ball players on your team.
Vinatieri now for the point after. And the Colts with just about a perfect first half. Doesn't get much better. 24-0 Colts.
Reggie Wayne right here is going to take a hard down inside move and force the defender to go out over the top of him. Watch him. No contact. Just get him to loop over the top. Plenty of room to get it into Austin Collie. There is not anything that these guys don't do well. And I tell you, they got physically handled a little bit in Houston, but the Manning Bowl has been clearly one-sided.
You think Archie and Olivia call down and say, like the old days when they were like 12-6, Come on, be nicer to your little brother, would you?
Let him score some points. We used to see some of their basketball games that you could tell that Peyton was taking it easy on him.
Pat McAfee will kick off and sends a grounder down the middle. And fielded at the 19-yard line by Renaud, and he'll bring it back to the 25-yard line. And one more kneel down will probably take us to the break.
And defensively for the Giants, this is kind of a nightmare. You know, they thought they had solved a few things. They pick up Antrell Roll, get Deion Grant, come up with some veterans like a Keith Bullock, and okay, we're feeling good about ourselves. And now you come in here and you play the master and you're down 24 points in the first half, and it doesn't feel so good anymore.
Giants will get the ball to start the second half. Well, they're not lining up in a kneel down formation. I say that because of what we saw last week at the end of the first half. See how fast Dallas took a knee at the end of the first half today against Chicago?
I did.
Now, this isn't a kneel down, but it's the next thing. It's the first cousin. That's the way the first half will end, and then Bradshaw puts it up. Just what they needed. That is the end of a first half to remember for the Colts and to forget for the Giants. All Colts as we go to the second half. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer, Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis. A one-sided comparison. 17 passing yards for Eli, 154 for Peyton. Time of possession is 19 minutes to 11 for the Colts, and 278 yards to 69. So about a 4-to-1 yardage ratio, and the scoreboard reflects all of that. This time the numbers don't lie.
Not this time.
Darius Renaud will run back the kick unless McAfee puts another one into the end zone, which he does. And he's going to come out anyway from about 7 yards in. And the man who was playing with the Vikings up until a couple of weeks ago brings it to the 13-yard line. Jacob Tammy makes the tackle, and let's check in with Andrea.
Well, Al, Tom Coughlin very talkative at halftime to me and to the team. He told them there's 30 minutes to play. Play for pride. Play your butt off. As for getting their offense, only 69 yards in the first half in sync. He said it's all about continuity. It's all about getting first downs. Now, injury-wise for the Giants, Michael Boley had an IV at halftime, and I'm told Aaron Ross will be limited in the second half with that foot injury.
All right, thank you, Andrea. So let's see if Tom Coughlin can do something to get these Giants back in to the game. 13-yard line. They begin this drive. The running back is Bradshaw. See Eli checking off, and Brackett so signaling to his defense on the other side. And under pressure, is the ball loose? No. Arm coming forward, and that was Dwight Freeney. So the second half starts the way the first half ends for the Giant offense.
For David Deal, he didn't know what to expect here. He's out here thinking, okay, is he going to do the spin move, whatever, and then he comes with the power and just throws him right back into Eli. That's the combination that is so deadly from Dwight Freeney. You set up and you get ready for all that speed, and how'd you like to see that? Your first pass out of the second half, Eli goes, what the heck, man? Come on, a little help out here.
Yeah, where were the adjustments? Arm was coming forward, so clearly an incomplete pass. Bradshaw, the running back, they'll give it to him. And he gets tripped up. Getting a hand on him was Mathis to stop him in his tracks, and then Brackett is there as well. Short gain. It'll be 3rd down and 7.
One thing we haven't seen a lot of tonight is the classic fullback position. Madison Hedgecock last week played one of the poorer games that I ever saw from him. And to make it even worse, Vontae Leach, the film that they were watching against this Colts defense for Houston, was masterful. And it was an embarrassing week for Madison Hedgecock, and he has not played much tonight.
Victor Cruz, who is a preseason star, comes into the game at wideout, number 80. And Manning will throw, and that'll be caught for a first down on the 3rd and 7. They convert to Steve Smith. He of the 107 catches last year. Funny, Chris, you know, he was always like the other Steve Smith, but then he had such a good year. The Carolina Steve Smith, at least for 10 minutes, became the other Steve Smith.
The other one. And somebody'd like to be the other David Deal. It doesn't matter what David Deal does. He can't keep up with him. You know, at some point, you know, give him a little help, I guess, because Eli, if he doesn't throw it when he hits that back foot, he's getting hit.
First down. And that's caught, and that's another 9-yard gain. The tackle is made by the rookie Cavell Connor, playing the left cornerback or left linebacker position, as Steve Smith makes another catch, and that's good for a gain of 9. Indianapolis's defensive coordinator, and he was a man not quite under the gun after the first week, but after that performance, Larry Coyer, who's been around so long. When Jim Caldwell was a player at Iowa, Coyer was his defensive coordinator. 2nd and 1. And Bradshaw, who would have been stopped behind the line of scrimmage with a great individual effort, taking it out to the 43-yard line. Bethea makes the tackle.
Boy, for Ahmad Bradshaw, he just looks like a different guy. Surgery on both feet and his ankle, and this is what he can do. He makes so many people miss. You think you've got him dead to rights, and his ability to re-accelerate. I talked to him the other day. He said, I cannot believe how good I feel. He said, I have been in so much pain. It first happened to me my freshman year of college that I didn't even realize it anymore, and now that I'm feeling better, it has just been fun to play the game.
10 carries for 56, and here's the 11th carry. And again, taking a couple of Colts with him for an extra yard or two. He takes it up to the 46-yard line.
And you just wonder about the relationship. Of course, Ahmad Bradshaw really has taken over the starting role for Brandon Jacobs. And I said, you know, does it hurt your guys' relationship? And he said, no, we are best of friends. Their families hang out together all the time, spend a lot of time with each other. And Brandon even told him, he goes, you deserve it. You've been playing great.
Comes out for a blow, and Bradshaw is behind Hedgecock now in this set. And then this is Jacobs. Jacobs carrying back the other way. Bethea comes up to make that tackle. So Jacobs, normally a straight ahead power guy, tried to do a little bit of dancing, and nothing happening.
Yeah, and so, Tom Coughlin's probably pulling his hair out right now. I mean, the last thing you want to see your 260-pound back do is this. You know, you're not Walter Payton, you're not Barry Sanders. Make somebody feel the pain of trying to tackle you.
And you're not on Dancing with the Stars.
No.
So half the league seems to have been. Bradshaw back in. 3rd and 8. 6 DBs for the Colts. And they still put pressure on Eli, and he throws and it's caught. Manningham got free, and he will go into the end zone for a touchdown. He beats Jacob Lacey down the left sideline to get into the end zone, 54 yards on a 3rd down and 8.
I can't believe that Eli got this one off. Dwight Freeney on the outside came just unmolested, and that was one of the few times that we've seen the Colts come up in a blitz look and actually play man coverage. You can see Beckham had his head turned looking back at Eli. Freeney had a free shot, but Manningham was so wide open he still was able to get it over the best man-to-man cover guy for the Colts.
3rd year in the league, longest play of Manningham's career, and times now for the extra point to boot it through. So the Giants with a couple of key conversions on that drive. 10:44 left in the 3rd, trying to scramble back into it. 24-7 Indianapolis. While we were away, somehow Brandon Jacobs' helmet winds up in the stands, and whoever has it doesn't want to give it back. So there's a negotiation going on as we speak to get Jacobs' helmet back.
Yeah. The negotiation was short-lived. Somebody went up there with a big bicep and ripped it out of that guy's hand. Negotiation over.
Times to kick off. Fielded at the 9-yard line. Devin Moore. And Moore steps out of bounds. Just did step on the chalk at the 28-yard line. Payton sees his first action of the second half. Indianapolis 24 and the Giants 7. Jacobs with his helmet back. We're on the way to solving that mystery. We'll have the story for you in a second. And this was after Jacobs had come out of the game. He'd done that little dance move on a second down. The ball is at the 28-yard line, and here is Adai. And Adai picking and threading for about 5. We have the #1 sleuth on our staff, Andrea Kramer. Andrea, what do you know?
Yes, I'm on spy patrol down here. Well, the Giants sideline, what they're saying officially is that Brandon Jacobs came off the field. He was very angry. He tried to throw the helmet against the bench. It slipped out of his hands. Of course, it went about 10 rows up into the stands. But the fans down here were pretty angry because they were afraid to get hit by it. He still yelling towards the fans, a lot of animosity. Stadium security went up there and retrieved it for him, but not before Tom Coughlin screamed at him.
On second down and 5, good report. Clark makes the catch, and he picks up the first down. I guess, Chris, we can surmise from that Tom was not very happy the way Jacobs ran that second down play.
Yeah, nobody was very happy, and I don't think. Here's what the battle looked like in the crowd. And the security finally said, enough of this debate. One guy's smiling. This guy said, forget that. Give me the helmet. But as a fan, you throw your helmet up in the stands, whether it's an accident or not, you have some rights to that thing. That's Brandon Jacobs is, he's pretty explosive. He's been hot and he's been upset, and he's showing it again here tonight.
And Manning gets hit, and Manning gets sacked, and Manning trying to step up in the pocket as Kiwanuka comes in and sacks him.
Kiwanuka working against the rookie Brody Eldridge over here. And Eldridge really has played pretty well, but that time Kiwanuka, who I believe that's now his 3rd sack on the season, he's that guy they keep moving around. They've constantly taken him to linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle, and he has to go to 2 or 3 different meetings during the week. But even though he doesn't like it so much, it is something that offenses have to deal with.
Homecoming night for him. He went to school here in Indianapolis, to Kiwanuka. Now it's Adai, and Adai across midfield takes the ball to the 49-yard line, where it'll be 3rd down and 12. Cofield making the tackle.
I'll tell you, the matchup that the Colts have been winning all night has been Dallas Clark working against Kenny Phillips. He turned him around last time.
And the Giants moving all over the field.
Ball start. Number 78, offense. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
That's the right guard, Mike Pollock. Peyton might have thought that he was going to be cool. Remember, the umpire now moves back into the offensive backfield. It was a big issue in Green Bay in preseason, but they have rectified that. I think that's what he thought it was all about.
And one of the things, Al, that they've done was they took the running back, Joseph Adai, and put him on the right side so he wouldn't get in the way of the umpire retreating in that no-huddle offense. He is right over here. You can see they just move him over, so now when they spot the ball, he has a free path to get out of there.
Umpire just has to be behind the deepest offensive player. Now they set up a screen to Colley. And Colley will get the ball to the 48-yard line. And so the Giants, who were down 24 at the half, touchdown on the first drive, and they're going to get the ball back here. Feel like it's ready to go back to work.
And that was a huge defensive series right there, because now, this is a game that you're still in at this point with this much time on the clock. So you can stay with the running game. Even a field goal, another touchdown, now it's out of control. But now you can stay with that game plan or get back to, I think, what they should have been doing from the beginning.
And McAfee drops the nose of the ball down to get backspin on it. And it's fair caught by Renaud at the 10-yard line. Halfway through 3rd quarter, 24-7 Colts. First and 10 at the 10-yard line for the Giants.
Big package back in now for the Giants. Fullback, extra offensive lineman, and a tight end.
Bradshaw behind Hedgecock. And Bradshaw doing it himself. Gain of 6 yards behind Colts as well that time. It'll be gain of 6, 2nd down and 4.
Well, Madison Hedgecock getting back in there now at the fullback position, and he's going to get a decent block on this one, but it's not exactly one of those where he drives the guy out of the hole. He kind of gets caught. And here's a couple from last week. Here was Vontae Leach, the way that he played against this Colts defense, and he was knocking people down and out left and right. And this was the tape that the Giants were watching all week. And for Madison Hedgecock, not a very pleasant film session.
And Manning's going to get hit from behind. The ball is loose. The ball is going to be taken into the end zone for a touchdown. Dwight Freeney, and you knew he'd be in the middle of the action, with Fili Moala getting the touchdown.
I don't know what made them think they could block him this half. They certainly have never blocked him in the first half one-on-one. Dwight Freeney's got to be laughing. He's got to be saying, you got to be kidding me. How in the world or you think you're going to block me out here one-on-one? It's just, there's been a lot of strange things going on. I thought they would stick to the run game, but when they drop back to pass with these two guys, they just have had no chance tonight.
And once again, that's that empty hand situation where even though the hand's coming forward, if the football's not in it, it's a fumble. It's a sack fumble. It's Adam Vinatieri for the extra point, and all of a sudden the Giants, who looked like they had some life, who looked like they had a shot, are back down again, 31-7. He's been doing it for years. Dwight Freeney. That kick by McAfee will scoot through the end zone. Well, they are the masters of the sack fumble. Freeney and Mathis, the bookends. Even Mathis doing a lot of spinning these days. And take a look at that, especially here in Indianapolis, what they have done. Career sacks and sack fumbles. Most in the NFL, Mathis. Second, Freeney. Double trouble. Each one tonight. Each has one tonight.
And they're both so fast, but when you put them in this building, sort of like the Minnesota Vikings and their pass rush, it's almost unfair because you have the tackle that has to look out at the end, and he can't hear the snap count, and these guys are beating him off the ball.
So now the Giants back down by 24, give the ball to Bradshaw.
I'll tell you, Larry Coyer did his job this week. I mean, he was very much in the ears of these defensive players for the Colts. He told them, he said, guys, you got some soul searching to do. Believe me, Tom Coughlin is going to come out here and try and humiliate you the exact same way that Houston did a week ago. They are going to take on his personality and run it down your throat. The only thing was they didn't really do that in the first half.
2nd and 8. It'll be a first down. Smith. Hey, a tip of the cap to Fili Moala as well, because we're always talking about who creates it. It's like Gretzky setting up a guy right in front of the goal. He feeds him, and there's Moala right there in his second year out of the University of Southern California. 2nd round draft pick last year, and I assume he'll keep that football.
Oh yeah, they were over there chest bumping and high fiving, and they'll get a lot of touchdowns over there.
First down, 31-yard line. That's Manningham. Short gain. Colts will give them all of the 4-yard gains that they want. Hayden making the tackle.
Well, we'll find out more about what Brandon Jacobs did. I'm sure it was exactly what he's done. If you've ever thrown a golf club, you've probably had a few go askew. Al, have you ever thrown a golf club?
Not in 3 or 4 days.
But it will, it will be a story in New York. Trust me. You throw your helmet, or your helmet somehow gets into the stands, it will be a topic of discussion for this week.
12 sidebars. 2nd and 6. Bradshaw. Tough running. Tripped up by Hayden in the first down.
Mathis is so fast off the ball that time. He ran himself right out of the play. He's got the feeding frenzy thing going on right now. He ended up so fast, Bear Pasco had absolutely no chance to even move. And you can see the problems you've gotten into here. And that's the reason, even if you want to throw the ball in this building with these two guys, you can't do it. You can't put your quarterback in that kind of danger.
From the 46-yard line. Look out again. He steps up, throws a wobbly pass, and is lucky that one doesn't get picked off by Bullet.
Kareem McKenzie has absolutely no chance of getting there on this play. Mathis going to come off the edge. You can see McKenzie's getting out there as fast as he can, and Eli, before every throw, is playing dodgeball. I mean, he knows one of the two of them is going to hit him, so he has to jump out of the way, and you just can't play like that. Their success tonight has been running the football, except for one big, long one over the top.
To Manningham, 2nd down and 10. And the Giants have to spend a timeout before a 2nd and 10. 31-7. Giants had to take a timeout. So it's 2nd down and 10 with the ball at the 46-yard line. Inside draw. Inside handoff. Bradshaw, Eric Foster making the tackle.
I feel like we should play the call to the post watching Freeney and Mathis on the outside. they are just ripping up the field. Do you want to run the ball down 31-7? Go ahead, take your shot.
The flag is up. 3rd and 5.
Still no help for David Deal.
Low throw. Smith can't grab it. That'll take us to 4th down.
But you can see what it does for the defensive backs of the Colts, because they're sitting there and they know that Eli has to throw this ball in about 2.5 seconds. So all they're going to do is just sit down and squat. You can see on the outside, Powers and Lacey, they're just playing those throws, because even though Nix wanted to get the ball down the field, there's no way Eli has time to do that. So they're going to let you run by there.
Dodge's kick, a short one. Powers calls for a fair catch at the 19-yard line with a little less than 3 minutes to play in the 3rd quarter. Reggie Wayne and Peyton Manning. I mean, for years it was Manning and Marvin Harrison. Then Harrison retires, and then consecutive games together. And there is where they rank completions, yards, and touchdowns. And a lot of football left for both of these guys. The crowd is trained to be so quiet here when the offense is at work. So they let the guys hear all of the signals and save their cheering for the end of plays, not particularly that one. Clark, so funny how it goes one week to the next. I mean, in Indianapolis, this is not teeth gnashing. This team is too good. They've been through too many situations in the past where they've rebounded, but they look like a completely different team than the one that showed up last week in Texas.
Yeah, no question about it. I tell you, it was amazing going out and watching practice the other day and watching Peyton Manning run this show. I mean, there is nobody else talking on the field. He has the play sheet sort of tucked down in his pants, pulls it out. He coaches everybody before the snap of the ball. They run the play. He coaches everybody afterwards. I've just never seen anything like it. Maybe Bill Russell in basketball is the closest thing I can come up with when he was the player coach. Maybe Gretzky was like that. I have no idea, Magic, but he is the man in charge from beginning to end out there when they hit the practice field. It's pretty remarkable.
A blessing for Jim Caldwell, first head coaching job in the National Football League, and you inherit number 18, 36.
Now Deion Grant back in there at linebacker again. Late substitution, so they're going to take a tight end out and put in a wide out. Peyton can even do that late.
And then he throws. And only the adjustments net a first down on a pass to Donald Brown. There is nothing he doesn't see, analyze, study, and implement.
They brought in Austin Collie off the bench to come in here and get this pick right there so Donald Brown could go catch the football. I mean, that's how good he is. Not only can he change the line of scrimmage, he can call for somebody standing on the sideline to come in because he got a look that he liked and throw it and hit it for the first down. Ridiculous.
Number 43, Brown. And you know, Chris, it's worth noting that the Manning passing camp, and we've talked about it through the years, and a lot has been written and said about it. And then Eli's down there, and he brings Hakeem Nicks down there, his receiver. And what is Peyton doing? He's trying to get Nicks off on the side to talk to him about the Giants' defensive scheme.
And Eli went, hey, don't answer that. What's the matter with you? Even Hakeem's laughing about it a little bit.
Knows we're telling the story. 2nd and 6. Deep and too deep. And Pratt figures if it's overthrown by that much, where's the flag? And Wayne wants to know as well. Pleading his case with the side judge to no avail.
Yeah, I thought that was a good no call there. Terrell Thomas working against Reggie Wayne, and Reggie kind of went through Thomas on this one. He's inside. He's got his position. Thomas went back into him a little bit. That was a pretty much a veteran play there. And Peyton, he doesn't think that 31 points is enough. He wants to really stick it to little brother.
3rd and 6. And Brown, he'll be stopped at the 49-yard line. And that will take us, in all probability, to the end of the 3rd quarter. So 15 minutes will remain as the Colts try to go to 1-1 and the Giants try to avoid. And Peyton, maybe he does want to try to get a playoff, or maybe just draw them offside is what he's trying to do. But again, he plays it all the way to the end. 31-7 at the break. Sunday Night Football from Indianapolis continues after these messages. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and Andrea Kramer in Indianapolis on this Sunday night, 2nd weekend of the season, a marquee matchup, and Indianapolis turning it into quite a show for the home group as they begin this quarter with a punt by McAfee. And the Colts are going to down the ball at the 2-yard line.
Well, it has been the Mathis and Freeney show tonight, and you want to see a little speed? Robert Mathis going right around Kareem McKenzie. That one in 2.3 seconds. Here we go, running 100 meters again, 2.4 seconds. And we'll go over to Dwight Freeney on the other side. David Deal did a great job on that one, held him to 2.6 seconds. But that's what you're talking about. As a defensive back, it is just a joy to play behind those guys, especially when you get the crowd noise going and now you're backed up in your end zone. Your tackles won't be able to hear anything at all. Good time to run the football.
Now the Giants begin from their own 2. Bradshaw. Hey, Chris, your thoughts about the Giant offensive line, because they were such a cohesive unit. They were terrific together. They played at one point 38 straight games from the start of 07 through last October. But since McKenzie got hurt and they've had guys kind of in and out there, it's been a different story. I mean, last year Manning got sacked 3 times in the first 6 games and 27 times in the last 10.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit older. They did have 3 guys go to the Pro Bowl a season ago, but they're not doing what they do best, which is coming off the ball, run blocking, and going play action off of it.
2nd and 3. Bradshaw gets stuffed. 3rd down.
You know, Melvin Bullett's come in here and done a pretty good job. He's played so much for Bob Sanders. It wasn't much of an adjustment for him to come in and try and fill in again. Of course, Bob Sanders is just one of the most dynamic players in the game. You talk to Larry Coyer, and he'll tell you that there's nobody with his talent on our defense. So we can't replace that. But Melvin Bullitt has been there long enough and played a long time with Bethea, so they're comfortable.
3rd and 3. And hit as he throws, and that's Bethea who comes in that time and forced the issue on the safety blitz. By the way, a lot of people call him Bethea. We're calling him Bethea. Why? Because he introduced himself tonight as Antoine Bethea, and here is the 3-syllable man right now.
So much of this concern, they're going to forget this one, and Eli's going to get rocked. I mean, he maybe had 1.7 seconds to throw that one out of there, and he can't even really look down the field. As a quarterback, you're getting hit like that. You can't read a defense. You're just trying to survive.
Antoine, by any name, is having a big night. Dodgers kick is out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Early 4th quarter. Colts 31, Giants 7. Central Indiana, state capital, home of the Colts since '84. And Peyton from the 45-yard line will hand the ball off to Adai. Gain of 5, penalty.
Holding. Number 85 offense, 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Pierre Garçon.
Yeah, it looked like Pierre held Corey Webster on the outside. But there is a new look here for the Colts that's been pretty impressive for me. You know, they do like to run the 2 tight end set, but now with number 81 Brody Eldridge out there, he has really shown me something blocking tonight. He is driving people off. So now if you go in that 2 tight end set and you want to play a dime defense and leave those defensive backs out there like the Giants did, he's going to make you pay the price because he's going to drive them back 10 yards.
Many good players did Oklahoma have last year?
Yeah, what did he played like center and guard and tight end? It was unbelievable.
Right, because the other tight end was Grisham, now in Cincinnati.
Well, here's what we saw early on. The 3 defensive end set, basically they were going to go try and rush the passer against Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning said, all right, you want to play that? No problem. 1 linebacker, 6 defensive backs. We'll just run it down your throat. And it's probably the biggest change in Peyton Manning. We had a long discussion about it one day, how he just was willing to take whatever the defense was going to give him. He wasn't going to fight it, wasn't going to force throws into multiple coverage. They're going to line up like that. He's going to run it.
2nd and 17. The die tackled by Phillips and Goff.
Yeah, and the Giants have adjusted because Phillips and Goff, you know, were guys that were not in there early on. Keith Bullock, Jonathan Goff, Michael Boley, their 3 linebackers didn't get a lot of looks.
Quick snap, flag down in the secondary, and they got Reggie Wayne as they'll decide whether he caught it or not, and then Peyton catching the Giants before they got set defensively.
The ruling on the field is incomplete pass. There were 12 men on the defense. 5-yard penalty, repeat 3rd down.
Credit that one, of course, to the quarterback.
There were closer to about 15 guys on the field. You'll see a late substitution as they try and get them in, and Peyton's not going to give that to you. You're going to try and roll those guys in, and it's not going to happen. And one of the game plans that they certainly have around here and have had for a long time is they're going to try and wear out the big guys. We have not seen this vaunted pass rush of the Giants be much of a factor at all. I think I can remember 1 sack, maybe 1 hit on Peyton, but it has been across the board not much of an effort by the Giants tonight.
That's exactly right. 3rd down and 10 from the 45-yard line. Manning one-hands the snap. Then there's another flag, and you got Wayne beating Thomas, making the catch, and a penalty. He does it so often.
Illegal contact. Number 24 defense. Penalties decline. Result of the play, first down.
Come back and call the same play, basically.
Pretty good catch that time by Peyton Manning. First of all, you got Reggie Wayne out here on the outside, going to do this little out and up move. Really almost completely covered, and yet when you get a guy that can throw it and catch it like that. But watch Dallas Clark in the backfield here. He almost gets fooled by Tollefson and then comes back. One of the things they talk about is the ability of Clark and Joseph Adai to block and just understand what Peyton's trying to tell him as far as the schemes are concerned.
34 yards on that play. Adai going nowhere. And that was Manning, that one-handed, left-handed grab, or right-handed this time. Before that, it was one-handed with the other hand.
Reggie Wayne, not the only guy that can handle the football. Sometimes you forget what that's like back there, because he's looking everywhere in the world trying to figure out where he's going to throw the ball, but he still has to handle that snap.
Second down and 12 from the 23-yard line. Quick look into Wayne, gets position on Thomas, and they've only done that a few hundred times.
Yeah, as soon as you put the extra guys up, try and play the run, all these guys up, 8 up here, now single coverage on the outside. He sees that safety right down the middle of the field. Now you come back with the slant. Reggie Wayne does a great job just muscling his way through. He's a guy much stronger than you think, not a real fast guy, kind of a 4.5, which in this day and age is just average speed for a wideout. But he just has a way of getting open and winning those one-on-one battles.
From the 11. 1 yard for Adai. Adai tonight, after a 10-carry, 44-yard performance last week, has doubled that on both counts. 20 carries, 93 yards. And Brown, who didn't carry the ball at all last week and barely played and caught one pass, he's been a big part of the game. Got him going on that first drive, culminating with his touchdown.
You cannot beat the Colts if they average 4.5 yards per run. There are too many parts of the field to try and cover if they're running the ball on you.
Second and 9. And turning around and making the catch, Wayne. A self-proclaimed touchdown.
That was close. Reggie Wayne caught it and got 2 feet down. He wasn't taken to the ground. If he had been and lost this ball, it would have been incomplete. But the fact that he stayed up was going to mean that it counts as a touchdown. Control, 2 feet down. There you go. Stripped it out late. Touchdown. Don't know what you do. You try and play the run, and they beat you that way.
And Vinatieri's extra point makes the score Indianapolis 38 and the New York Giants 7. The kickoff down in the end zone. 9 minutes and 11 seconds left in Indy. 38-7 Colts. Freeney in that defense, atoning for last week's performance and then some. Dominant. 38-7 Colts. And Manning begins this drive with a pass to Manningham. Taken down, gain of 4. Let's check in with Andrea.
Well, Al, we recall that bizarre scene with Brandon Jacobs' helmet ending up in the stands. Now, the Giants won't say officially that he's been benched, but he has not returned to the game since the incident. Meanwhile, there's a member of NFL security down here who spoke to Giants sideline personnel and told me he plans to interview the guy in the stands who had the helmet after the game, but they are terming it an accident.
All right, and Manning, that's no accident right there as he gets jostled and bumped. No accident because 93 is there.
Well, for Dwight Freeney, he's shown the full repertoire. Now he goes to the straight bull rush. David Deal probably outweighs him by about 35, 40 pounds. Another sack fumble. It's unbelievable. I mean, the crowd's not even yelling now. He's just doing this on his own.
3rd and 12. Nobody home. Knicks double covered on the play. And it's a very fast 3 and out.
You know, and David Deal obviously has had a rough night tonight. So has Kareem McKenzie. But at some point, I'm going over to the sideline and going, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've had a little problem with Dwight Freeney tonight. How about somebody coming over and chipping him or giving me a little help? And David, you're not the first one that struggled with this guy, but well, I tell you, the Giants are a million miles out of their game tonight.
Not the first guy nor the last. And this is a good kick. That would be about the only bright spot for the Giants tonight. Flag thrown. Powers covers up after Dodge gave every Giant fan a little heartburn last week. He said a good night punting, and that one's 63 yards.
Think that'll be in the headline? Punter has a great night. Giants get crushed.
During the return, illegal block in the back. Number 45 of the receiving team. 10-yard penalty. First down. Time.
Silver linings are hard to find when you're down 7-38. Brown. Well, Jim Caldwell, he nonplussed last week after the loss. He said, hey, you know, we've been here before. He was on the staff for years with Tony Dungy, and they went into Jacksonville a few years back and got ripped. Looked like, oh my God, we've got all these major problems on the ground. But, you know, I would call him measured, classy, completely together. I mean, he's a very interesting man who, of course, took over for Tony after Tony had had that spectacular success here over a 7-year run.
And if you know Tony Dungy, you know a little bit about Jim Caldwell. Same kind of approach to the game, and it's one of the major reasons he's the head coach.
And this is Brown, who talks about, you know, the transition and what's taking place, and he sums it up. He said, look, I haven't deviated from the core.
I'll tell you, Al, the one thing we have not talked about much tonight is this Colt offensive line. Mike Pollock on that play just took his guy and drove him about 7 or 8 yards back. And these guys, you know, they made a major change. Ryan Lilja was playing left guard. Now it's Jamie Richard. Watch number 78 here. He's just going to get into Cofield, I think it is, and just go backward. He got tripped up a little bit, but clearly he was driving him backwards and making that play. And these guys have gotten it done tonight. There were a lot of questions about this running game.
You have Pete Metzelaars, the one-time tight end for the Buffalo Bills, is now coaching the offensive line because Howard Mudd retired. There's Metzelaars, had been on the staff, and I think Howard's back in Seattle riding his motorcycle.
But they wanted more power. You know, every coach that comes in and takes over, they have their own little signature, and they wanted to see more power out of these guards. So they changed both. They had kind of 3 for 2 spots. It was Kyle DeVan, Mike Pollock, and Jamie Richard. And Richard and Pollock ended up winning the jobs. But they are deep at that position, but much more physical than they've been in the past. Not so much sideways, a little more just power going right at these guys.
They have a new back in here. This is Mike Hart, and you know when Mike Hart gets into the game, it's going to be a one-sided game because he's behind Adai and Brown, 2 #1 draft choices. And Joseph can smile. 92-yard night.
First charge, timeout.
And the Giants are going to take a timeout here. 3rd and 8. And carrying the ball here is Mike Hart once again. Peyton, meanwhile, last week losing efforts. He was throwing a lot because they were behind the entire game, so he threw for 433. But there he is. He's almost up to 700 yards, and he has 6 touchdowns and no picks in the first 2 weeks.
Well, he has 4 MVPs to his name already, and might be working on a 5th if those numbers continue. tell you, even the Giants were talking about how, you know, you think he's a smart guy and you think he's a good quarterback and all this. Then you start watching him on tape and you go, oh, my goodness. You know, what do you do? He can just beat you in so many different ways. And he beat him with his brain tonight.
And an Indy timeout has just milked the clock all the way down. You know, siblings, when you talk about it in sports, there have been some great ones. You had Vince, Joe, and Dom DiMaggio, and Cheryl and Reggie Miller. Of course, Reggie made his mark in this town. Tony and Phil Esposito. Venus and Serena, we all know about. Got to throw in Maurice and Henri Richard, the Montreal Canadiens, because Maurice was like the greatest player of his era. He was the rocket. Henri was the pocket rocket.
You made me a hockey fan, so I'm into it now.
Yeah, I know you are. And they had a third brother who played for about 10 minutes in the NHL, Claude. He was the vest pocket rocket. There you go. And when you're talking about the Richard brothers in Indianapolis on Sunday Night Football,
it's a big blowout,
it's
isn't it?
38-7.
You know, it was interesting listening to Eli, though. He was saying that Peyton had met the offensive line of the Giants. And he said they were all excited because Peyton was talking to him. And, you know, what do you guys do in this protection? What do you guys do? And Eli went up to him and he says, guys, he doesn't like you. He's just milking you for information. Don't talk to him. But he is always working every single angle he can come up with.
Eli dumps it over the middle. It's DJ Ware, third unit back, making the catch.
Yeah, and you just wonder how many more shots you want Eli to take in this ball game. You've got Sage Rosenfels, who's over there, and I guess the whole Jim Sorgi factor going from the Colts over there and all the insider information he was going to, that one didn't work out either.
Right, so much for that. And this is Nix making the catch. And Nix, who was one of the big stars last week with those 3 touchdown catches, has been a non-factor tonight. That's his first reception.
You're setting up these 2 guys to come after your quarterback, and
on the ground again, DJ Ware.
Don't you just kind of wonder how this thing could have worked out if the Giants had come out running the ball tonight? If they would have, you know, and so many times, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't they elect to kick right off the bat, and Peyton went down the field and made it 7-0? And when these guys get in front, they're one of the great front-running teams that you'll ever see.
What else is new? This time it's Mathis. Only a sack, no fumble. You always wonder how certain things work. How about if Peyton wound up in San Diego and Ryan Leaf wound up here?
Yeah.
How do you think that would have worked out?
I hear you. Watch Robert Mathis dip this shoulder. That is tough. That is the way a tailback goes around the corner right there. And boy, oh boy, Eli is no Moss time. How about if we hand off for another 2 minutes and 55 seconds, Coach?
Well, I think either that or just short stuff over the middle, but instead they're going to go to the outside. And you're going to have Manningham. And they whistle it dead while he's inbound, so the clock will keep rolling.
You have to have some strong legs and some good feet to turn like this. He is going to take, that is a strong angle, and that's a big man who just can't get down that low. He is almost at a 45-degree angle coming around the corner right there.
3rd and 2. And that's almost intercepted. Intended for Smith and a near pick by Powers. You know, you watch those guys like spinning tops, and you just think about human centrifugal force, the way they rotate around. Like a low pressure system.
Dr. Doppler,
there
another report. Well, and they're not coming out of the game. They're like, this is feeding frenzy time for us. done a great job. You know, I mean, Jim Caldwell, he didn't panic. He kept these guys together. He said, we're going to be at home. We'll be fine. We're going to do what we do. We're not going to change anything. And he was right. This Colts defense came out ready to play.
On 4th and 2. And they'll turn it over on downs as Ware goes nowhere. And the older brother can take us right to the end of the game in all likelihood.
You know, the Colts defense gave up one play tonight. One play, the long play to Manningham, and that was it. That was as close to a perfect game defensively as you will see. One over-the-top throw was all they gave up, and we all know Peyton was perfect on the offensive side with his troops, so Colts can't fire a much better shot than that one.
This is a Colt team last year that went 14-0, but they did it with rabbit's feet from time to time because they won almost every close game, came from behind with miracle comebacks, had the ball 15 minutes in Miami and won that game at the end. Had the Patriots go for it on a 4th down, and that turned that game around. But tonight, a thorough demolition. This is Devin Moore, who's their run back guy and a local kid. He went to high school here and played his college ball at Wyoming. 2 minutes till the Colts are 1-1, and the Giants have the same record. Well, Mom and Dad are already down there outside, I think, the Giants tunnel, which means, well, they're going to console before they congratulate.
Sandy Montag there as well. This is they've got a rule in the Manning family, right? The losing guy, if he wants to talk, they make the phone call. This happens every week, you know, not just during the Manning Bowl kind of game. So usually they both win, has kind of been the way that it goes. But if one wins and one loses, if the losing quarterback wants to talk, it's up to him to call. Otherwise, no phone call.
Well, again, the local guy Brown, and then he gives the ball up. Chance to shine, chance to do something. Instead of running out the clock, the next thing you know, you got to change of possession. Terrell Thomas winds up with the football. Creates the fumble.
For Devin Moore, he's had no luck whatsoever. Had the kickoff return for a touchdown last week, called back by a penalty, and finally gets in the game here at the end and coughs that one up. I think Eli ought to try a drop kick here. Why not?
All right. How about a Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, it's something.
Go over the end zone, and it's going to be caught for a touchdown by Nix. So he gets his 4th touchdown of the season. But that all looks good on the stat sheet and means nothing as far as the game is concerned. Well, sort of nothing.
Yep, but for Akeem Nix, it means he continues the roll. That's his 4th touchdown of the season. And I tell you, when they have given Eli time to throw the ball, they've had some success with his receivers down the field. But I'm telling you, when I watch these Colts cornerbacks, it's like they expect every pass to come out in about 2.5 seconds, which typically it's had to tonight. And sometimes they get caught squatting and looking in the backfield and expecting that kind of pressure.
Orange Tynes. And that kick is good with 1:46. Well, the game is over, and it's really over.
Watch Eli Manning's eyes here. He's going to realize he's got the single coverage on the outside. He sees it, but now he's going to look down the field and to the left a little bit. He knows all the way. He's just holding that safety in the middle of the field and allowing his guy Nix to go one-on-one. My eyes would be going out towards Mathis and Freeney, not at the safety.
Well, Brandon Jacobs, not that he'll be asked about that after the game.
Be a lot of people answering questions after this one. You know, and who knows? And only he knows what really happened, but it did happen right after a play where he sort of danced around. We talked about it. He came off. I didn't see it. My guess is Coughlin may have said something to him about that because they're always trying to get him to pound it in there a little bit more. Maybe he got frustrated, tried to throw it at the bench, and it took off. I just don't know. He does, so we'll find out more.
Well, those guys are thinking, what is this going to be worth on eBay in about 2 hours? Well, Devin Moore is the only guy back, and Colts had 10 guys up expecting a possible onside kick, but the Giants ain't going in that direction.
Now, maybe you can answer this. What does it take to get Curtis Painter on the field?
It takes a 14-0 record and a lead against the Jets in Week 15.
And they've seen it enough, maybe. I mean, poor Curtis Painter in practice. He just stands back there. He never gets a snap. He's never in the huddle. He never utters a word. He's just back there listening to the master work.
Well, this crowd was hoping they didn't see him last year either, because that was the situation when they were 14-0, had everything wrapped up, and yanked the big guys and brought him in against the Jets and wound up losing that game, and they went up to Buffalo and lost that game as well.
I just wonder how frustrating it was for Peyton Manning. There he was sitting there at 14-0, had a chance if they won the last two to go undefeated, had a chance to be the only 19-0 team in the history of the game. You know that he gets all that stuff, and yet the team convinced him that it was best to sit. But he had to be thinking, boy, I wouldn't mind having a run at that 19-0 and perfect season and all the things that went with it.
He wasn't the only Colt.
No, but he was a good soldier. He said yes sir and sat down, and
but the book will come out someday.
Yeah. What he really thought.
Yeah.
I wonder what Eli's really
Right.
thinking. He's thinking he's glad he doesn't have to see Mathis and Freeney anymore.
There's a lot of obfuscation until you write the book after you retire.
Boy, Archie knows a little bit about what was that show, Ben Gazzar, Run for Your Life? Archie did a little of that down in New Orleans too.
I'm too young to remember that.
Yeah.
And that'll do it for Manning tonight. A 20-26 night, 255. Andrew is going to talk to him and to Dwight Freeney as well. Giants will head home for their next two games. They've got Tennessee and then Chicago, and the Chicago game is a Sunday nighter in 2 weeks, and the Colts will take their 1-1 record into Denver next week and then go to Jacksonville as the brothers with a little hug, and away they go, each in separate directions.